Hang on, Mr. Douglas. Yeah.
And welcome back as we begin again with a reintroduction of Ingo Swann's Secrets of Power, Volume 1. We're taking a different tack here because I was lucky enough to be able to actually work on the audio version, the audiobook version of Ingo Swann's Secrets of Power, Volume 1, and I will be working on Ingo Swann's Secrets of Power, Volume 2 shortly after. I wanted to create episodes of the podcast to provide a wetting of the whistle, if you will, as I've done before, but in a slightly shorter, more precise fashion, moving through the book's chapters and information, bringing in some of the many, many piles of knowledge drops that Ingo gives to us throughout the book. And as we begin, I wanted to drop in his complete author's notes in the beginning of the first volume, because it really lays out why he wrote the books and how we can benefit from exposing ourselves to the knowledge that he has curated and stitched together for us in such wonderful, engaging fashion. For those of you who are new to this subject matter, Ingo Swann very quickly was a gentleman with high level, for lack of a better term, so that we all may understand, psychic powers. The guy had his intuition ratcheted up to 11 and beyond, so much so that he actually helped facilitate the creation of the remote viewing protocols that the government probably still uses to this day, but many people use, and not just for remote viewing. In my personal exposure to Ingo Swann's work, it has been a wonderful, mind-stretching experience to shape and collect multifaceted frames of mind that have helped me get going in my life in ways that I never really thought of before, because I just didn't have this kind of foundation of frames of mind to stand on and launch from. And this brings us to his author's notes, which we will listen to here in a moment. But it's really all about how we do not have any kind of actual exposure to what is actually going on when it comes to the power structures that we all swim through and operate within, and how anybody, any one single individual that wants to actually wake up and start to accrue and awaken and unfold power for and within themselves will inevitably bump up against the reality of the situation, which is that the situation is not set up really for your individual benefit and unfoldment of your individual power. But the knowledge of that and the deep dives that Ingo takes us throughout this book allow an unfogging of the map in which we all have to operate with. And through that unfogging, all of a sudden awareness expands and levels up pretty rapidly to the point where you can start to decide where you want to put your attention and how that attention will rebound to you in the most beneficial way possible. It's a beautiful book, a beautiful 2 series, but this first one lays a thick, deep, powerful foundation for us all to launch from in better, more powerful ways. Here we go. Author's notes. Thank you, Ingo. Let us begin our journey through the Secrets of Power, Volume 1. Author's notes. The more things change, the more they remain the same. It's an old adage that applies to many human activities, but it certainly applies to the activities of human societal power. Its outer circumstances and formats change over time, but its inner workings remain remarkably the same. One of the inner factors that remains the same consists of the ever-ongoing distinctions between the powerful and the powerless that prevail through time and circumstances. Thus, one may talk of ancient or modern civilizations and empires and even of the forthcoming globalization process, and still be talking of the powerful versus the powerless. Two other factors also remain the same. One, the general lack of interest in the nature of the powerless, i.e., why the powerless are powerless, and two, the enormous fascination with the powerful and with possibilities of becoming powerful. This fascination is extremely prevalent and is shared by the powerless and the powerful, the latter of which are fascinated with themselves and have little interest in the powerless. Indeed, there is more fascination with the dramatics of power and achieving powerfulness than with the principal mandate of our species, survival into the future, the prospect of which by now has become something of an unpredictable gamble. There is another significant factor that needs to be taken into account. Although it might at first seem quite distant from the problems of power, this has to do with the enormous amount of discovered data, information, and knowledge that is avoided, forbidden, made taboo, swept under carpets, or simply trashed. Brain researchers often say that we only use 10 to 15% of our brains. It's also quite possible to think that we use only 10 to 15% of discovered knowledge. One might ask what these two somewhat unexplainable discrepancies have to do with power. Well, it's entirely possible that we know only 10 to 15% about the nature of power, and that we utilize only 10 to 15% of our innate powers. Why a species equipped to function at higher percentages of everything should remain confined to 10% performance is an awesome situation to meditate on. Most information sources regarding power seem to end up giving two basic impressions about it. One, that it is more or less straightforward and easy to understand if one has the intelligent wherewithal to do so, and two, that what is seen as power in both the individual and societal realms reflects some kind of natural order, and which automatically establishes the legitimacy of the difference between the powerless, the relatively powerful, and the powerful. It would be a great mental and emotional relief if the two impressions did reflect the basic nature of power, but they do not, and cannot if the word human is prefixed to the term power. The two impressions are possible only if power is seen as one-dimensional, i.e. seen either from the bottom up, so to speak, and or from the top down. But as is well known, anyone who manages to think outside of the one-dimensional aspects of power soon becomes aware that power has very many dimensions. And indeed, in many pre-modern cultures, it was often said that power has 1,000 faces. Whether discussed as being multidimensional or having multiple faces, the inescapable meaning of that power, in its intrinsic nature, is complex. This in turn means that any real examination of power will be fraught with problems having to do with uncertainty. And indeed, if ever there was a realm of human activity totally encumbered by uncertainties, the realm of power activity clearly tops the list. Societal power is considered a very precious commodity, perhaps the most precious. Access to it is therefore a matter of ultra-intense competition. In turn, easy access to the competition itself must be guarded in order to limit the numbers of possible competitors. There is only one really efficient way to guard against access to power, and that is to conceal, prohibit, and secretize all real knowledge about it. It is unbelievable to think that real knowledge about the nature and workings of power is unavailable. But the ultra-precious commodity has been with us throughout history. Thus, various long-term ways and means have been engineered to keep the majority dumbed down about the nature of power so that it can be more efficiently sequestered in the hands of the few. The long-term result is that most do not comprehend very much about power, but most do appreciate two well-known facts about it. One, that power is what individuals can bump up against as they proceed through their lives, and two, that power is also what, literally speaking, can thump across individuals attempting to proceed through their lives. There is a basic fact that those aspiring to empowerment must face. Sooner or later, societal power is almost always more powerful than the individual, even more powerful than groups of them. Thus, in seeking empowerment, individuals will bump up against a variety of real-life societal situations already structured to control and delimit too much empowerment by too many. Unless the aspirant understands something of what will be bumped up against along those societal lines, it is probable that not much will happen except a grinding of the gears. Therefore, the first mandate for achieving empowerment is to become cognizant of those societal factors and forces already geared to preventing it on a very large scale. In view of this unavoidable mandate, the first volume of Secrets of Power is confined to 28 chapters. Each discusses some societal aspect of power and depowerment, and all of which, in real-life feedback, can defeat and even trash individual attempts at empowerment. At the end of each chapter are some suggested items to observe in real life out there, or some suggested exercises that might help increase awareness along those lines. One seldom gets anywhere unless there is some kind of map to follow.
See how many interesting, he made a lot of interesting points in there, right? Okay, so look. First, I want to talk about those two factors that remain the same. That one, that general lack of interest in the nature of the powerless. Why the powerless are powerless. Why are they? Or why do they perceive themselves as powerless? And why are we enamored with the powerful as they are presented to us? And it's very interesting, 2023, to see how the powerful are presented to us and what we should perceive as powerful, according to the systems and artifices set up for us to operate through and gaze upon. As we'll come to see as we continue to expose ourselves to Ingo's wisdom, it seems as if at least one major reason as to why things are set up the way they are is to limit and suppress people's natural, inborn power and to siphon it away, or entreat in them a mindset where power is repulsed from themselves, or redirected in a way that will support the system set up for seemingly our amusement, but really for a way of redoubling support for systems that, again, do not serve our best interest, but distract, suppress, and strip away awareness from what we've already got inside us, each and every one of us as individuals. Why are we paying so much attention to certain feuds between celebrities? Why are we paying so much attention at this point in time to a whole bunch of mystery balloons popping up and either being dealt with or not being dealt with, when there's other, much more individually pressing issues that we could be dealing with? Issues like, how are we going to feed ourselves the best way we can? How can I use my time wisely? What are ways that current emerging technologies can actually help me further myself and unfurl the power within me, rather than being fearful and distracted by the narratives presented around these subjects? Do chicken eggs really cause strokes? Really? So there are a lot of these things that Ingo presents to us that, especially in this day and age, are prescient, important, and can be now, through the frames of mind that we will engender within ourselves as we continue to expose ourselves to Ingo's work. We can look through these frames of mind and get a better idea of how what is being presented to us is not in our best interest and could be actively setting up a situation that is detrimental to our growth and continued empowerment. And Ingo goes on to talk about how there is so much data, information, knowledge, etc. that's just avoided, shut down, swept under the carpets, or made to seem insignificant. Why is that? Don't look over here. Pay attention over here. Watch the game. Enjoy this music, but don't start to look into how to unfold your own natural indwelling power. Oh, and he gets to that. And again, here we are thinking about power in a way that has not ever been presented to us in an organized and curated way that Ingo has put together here for us in his books. Rarely do our minds ever settle on the very simple yet very potent fact that societal power is considered a very precious commodity, probably the most precious, right? And if it's really precious, access to it is probably going to be guarded pretty hardcore. And what's a really great way of guarding something that's ultra precious? Making it incredibly difficult to even recognize the path to that preciousness to begin with. Well, as I said before, the map becomes unfogged as we unfurl the knowledge that Ingo has wrapped up within these 2 volumes. And with that map, we as individuals can awaken, strengthen, and empower ourselves and each other in ways that have been secreted quite purposefully and for quite some time. And Ingo makes another point, make no mistake, throughout everybody's life, you're going to bump up against that power. That societal artifice designed in its own particular way to be serving to its own ends and means and perpetuation, you're going to feel that rubbing up against that power. Sometimes it ain't going to feel so good. But with a more detailed map, gives us more opportunity to find our own path and recognizing the lack of individuation opportunities with pre-designed paths, again, that are serving to the path's self-perpetuation, and those that are empowered by maintaining that path in the forefront of the minds of the perceived powerless. And I don't know about you, but when you find out something that you really like, that's good for you, you get excited. You get motivated to get more into it, whatever that is. And what's beautiful about the human race is while we've all got these wonderful inborn powers, we're all different when it comes to expressing them. It's as if we're all these wonderfully unique gems, and when light shines through us, it's never going to shine the same way twice. But that light has first got to shine through. And so these frames of reference that are presented to us, this knowledge of power and empowerment, provides the opportunity to shift our gems in a way to get that light shining bright. That's what excites me about this work and what Ingo has provided humanity, and that what I have now the extra special opportunity to share with you. Highly recommend you check out the website ingoswann.com, ingoswann.com. Great way to get to know the man and his wonderful works. And shortly, I will recommend that you take the deeper dive by listening to the audiobook once it is available to you. It's a goodie. And I am so thrilled and thankful that I was able to narrate and produce the audio version of this very extra special tome. Here we go, humanity. Here we go. Hang on, deep breaths, and get ready. Ingo Swann has got the goods, and we are here for it. Thanks for hanging, and I'll catch you on the next one.